If you've been lying awake at night, struggling to get back to sleep, if you struggle to get to sleep in the first place, if you have restless legs, and all of this is occurring through midlife and menopause, I'm going to be diving into insomnia and sleep issues within the menopausal envelope today. Welcome to my channel. My name's Kate. I share a weekly video with you every Monday around something related to menopause. If you have anything you'd like me to discuss in a future episode, please drop it in the comments box below and I will make sure to do that. So today we're going to go on to a deep dive about what affects changes in your sleep during menopause. By the end, you'll have some actionable tools, and I'm also dropping a free resource. It's a healthy sleeping habits checklist in the link in the description box below, so help yourself. Before we go further, I want to just cover a few things because, as you know, I do a lot of research for these episodes on top of the knowledge that I already have. And there are experts out there saying one thing, and then another expert completely contradicts that, and then another expert might say something which isn't completely clear as to what they mean. And I want to dive firstly into melatonin. Melatonin is our naturally occurring sleepy hormone. It helps you go to sleep. And throughout the course of the day, if you're following a typically normal circadian rhythm, so you wake up in the morning, you go to sleep at night, we have more cortisol in the morning, which is designed to get us up and going. And then as the day progresses, our cortisol tends to decline. Cortisol is one of our stress hormones. Melatonin increases, and melatonin signals to the body that it's ready to go, you're getting ready to go to bed. Sometimes you might hear experts say melatonin helps sleep, and other times they might say melatonin actually doesn't help sleep. They are talking about a melatonin supplement, not the naturally occurring melatonin in your body. I will dive into melatonin in more detail later on. Also want to cover magnesium because again, it's the same. You'll find some experts say magnesium does not have an impact on sleep, and you'll have a lot of other experts saying that magnesium does in fact help you sleep better. Again, I will go into that in much more detail, but I wanted to bridge that gap so that today's episode makes sense for you specifically as a menopausal woman. Those struggles of sleep woes. First of all, let's understand that we all struggle with slightly different sleep problems. You might struggle to go to sleep. You might wake up in the early hours and then struggle to go back to sleep. You might be waking up multiple times of night. You might be struggling to go to sleep and waking up multiple times of night. You might be struggling with restless leg syndrome, which is quite a common symptom during menopause. You may have breathing related issues or sleep apnea. And why it's important to understand this is because the root cause might be entirely different. So once you know what's actually causing the issue, what specifically is your problem, then you can trace it back and think, okay, well, these are the things I can try to make changes to that should improve the quality and the duration of my sleep. So what happens to sleep during menopause, apart from the fact it becomes very elusive? The menopause brings hormonal shifts that literally ripple throughout our sleep architecture. The estrogen falls, and that can trigger hot flushes and night sweats, which are obviously going to increase the risks of you waking up. Progesterone falls. Progesterone tends to be one of our calming hormones. So if you're feeling more anxious, or you're just more antsy or irritable, or you're just feeling that low-grade fizz, you might be getting the heart palpitations. That can also negatively impact your sleep. Stress hormone cortisol is very influential during your menopausal years because as the ovaries go into retirement and they stop producing as much estrogen and progesterone and testosterone, our sex hormones, as they did, because we don't need those sex hormones anymore. We're not making babies anymore. However, our adrenal glands then are designed to do the backup job of the ovaries. Well, the problem with our adrenal glands for the vast majority of us is we are so overstressed. As women, we're busy, we're working, we're raising families, we're tending houses, we're doing the whole gamut. Roles are multifaceted, and because of the sort of societal pressures of being busy, because if you're not busy, you're being lazy, and if you're not productive, well, what should you be doing with your life? That really has a negative impact on us. And I really recommend to everyone is just to step back and allow yourself to breathe a bit. I'm as guilty of this as anyone else. I have always prioritized sleep as much as I can. I am a psychotherapist. I know how important sleep is to us for our mental health, as well as multiple other benefits for us. So I always have been bossy, but I know a career I had not long ago, and they were saying, yeah, it doesn't matter, get up at 5, start your work, and da-di-da-di-da. And just like, no, that is bonkers. And those people who were ranting and raving about getting up early and not being lazy and da-di-da-di-da, they are now struggling with major inflammatory problems. And they're probably 15 years younger than I am. So because people might have a large social media following and because they might be shouting very loudly does not mean that they are correct. So do make sure that you do your due diligence on stuff that you get advised. Same with my stuff. I research a lot. I've been a psychotherapist for 20 plus years. I've been working with menopausal women specifically for 8 plus years. But always make sure that you are then doing your own due diligence, and ideally just cross-check the information that you're being told and advised online to make sure that it is specific and appropriate for you, because we are all different. We're all multi-nuanced. You might be taking medications, you may have genetic predispositions. Your genetics will impact actually how you sleep. So while I can give you blanket tips and advice, other people can do the same. Some people are actually giving wrong advice. But do your own due diligence to and make sure that if you decide to do something and take something that I might suggest today, that you then cross-reference that, cross-check that, and make sure that it is actually appropriate for you. So just going back to that cortisol thing, because we are all very busy and stressed and we have more cortisol in our bodies than we probably should have, cortisol in the right amount is healthy for us. We need cortisol. It's a really important part of being a healthy human. But we are either cortisol depleted because we've worn out our adrenal glands, sort of condition known as adrenal fatigue, which is not a medically recognized condition, but in the complementary health space, it's a very recognized condition. And essentially it means that your adrenals are just so tired that you're not actually pumping out the right amount of stress hormones that you need to function optimally. You've like deflated, you've gone flat. It's just like, I can't do any more. And that is not a position you want to be in for long. You can get out of it. I have various other videos on adrenal fatigue. In fact, I have multiple videos on adrenal fatigue. I'll list a few in the description below, and I'll also add one here as well for you to take a look at. But because cortisol is pretty much so pervasive around our bodies, that does increase your risks of feeling anxious, having racing thoughts through the day as well as during the night. I know, there are times when I've woken up at 2 or 3 a.m. and the most insignificant, silly little thing has become this mountain that I've probably, I don't know, worried about for an hour and a half before I finally managed to go back off to sleep again. And I wake up in the morning and I just think, what on earth was I worrying about? But it happens. And so our cortisol becomes quite erratic. Cortisol during the night should be completely, going off, dropping off, because melatonin is keeping you nice and asleep. But we can have that imbalance. So today's video will help to sort of tie all that together and help you understand how to improve the cortisol in the morning when you should be having your cortisol. Make sure that you've got your melatonin, naturally occurring melatonin, not a supplement melatonin, doing what it needs to do at night, as well as all the bits in between. Restless legs and sleep apnea are a little bit their own islands in a big sea. I'm not going to dive into those in any great detail today. However, restless legs, if you're getting that and that's keeping you awake at night, that's often linked to low iron levels. It can be genetic too, and also imbalance of dopamine. Now, dopamine is a brain chemical. It's also made in your gut. 50% is made in your gut. So gut health, I bang on about gut health all the time, is really important for the quality of your sleep. So it might be, if you've got restless legs, focus on adding a few more fermented foods into or start eating fermented foods such as kefir, kimchi, sauerkraut, drink some kombucha, raw cheeses, and those will help to keep your gut microbiome healthier. And also plenty of fruits and vegetables, because you need the fiber from those for a healthy gut too. So just be mindful of that if you're getting restless legs, adjusting your gut health might have a profound impact on bringing that down. So let's dive into melatonin. Your naturally occurring melatonin is your sleepy hormone. As you go through the day, ideally you want some UV exposure earlier in the day, that sets your circadian rhythm. So that means your body's awake, you've got the optimal amount of cortisol because that's sort of starting to peak because you're in your morning. And as your day goes on, that cortisol level will decline, and your melatonin, because you've had your ultraviolet in the morning, you don't need to be sunbathing. Ideally, 20 minutes outside in the daylight is going to help you then make sure that at the end of the day, that melatonin is starting to secrete naturally, ready for when your natural wind down routine would start. And I say natural wind down routine because we all have a different chronotype. There are three main chronotypes. So you might be the early bird, that's me. You might be the night owl, definitely not me. And you might be somewhere in between as well. And that actually harks back to evolution, because you can think, well, why actually do we need to sleep? Because while we're sleeping, we're not procreating, we're not, not breeding, we are not eating, we're not protecting our tribe. Because in the early days, we used to belong to tribes. We used to be quite community based. And the reason for that, are different chronotypes, is because there's only about, when you think, by the time the night owl has gone to sleep, so might be sort of, in extreme cases, 3 a.m., 4 a.m., and then you've got your early birds, 4 a.m., 5 a.m., waking up. There's only about an hour when the tribe would probably not be on high alert for, invasions or animal attacks, etc., etc. Same happens with, if you look at birds, and there's loads of studies on this, it's really interesting. If there's a flock of birds and they lie, or they settle on or say a branch, and the birds all in the middle, they will go to sleep. It's been tested that both sides of their brain, they sleep. But the birds on the end, so the bird on the right, the bird's right eye, so the left hemisphere of the brain, because the left hemisphere controls the right side of the body. So the bird on the right, its left brain will be awake so that the right eye can see, but the right side of its brain is asleep. And on the other side, so the bird on the left, its left eye is open, right side of the brain is awake, and its left side of the brain is asleep. And you think, wow, okay, well, they obviously take it in shifts. They don't. The birds on the end get a fairly tough deal, but what they do then at some point is then they rotate. So they don't even swap over positions, they just rotate. So then the bird that had the right eye open has now got its left eye open because it's pointing in the other direction, and vice versa. It's fascinating when you dive into why we sleep and the mechanics of really what is the whole point of it. And obviously, modern day science, we know now the glial cells in the brain, they get flushed out. That helps get rid of the tau proteins and the amyloid plaques associated with Alzheimer's. It's when the body renews and rebuilds and restores. It also sorts through its memories. That's when it helps to compartmentalize things that have happened to you. That the other day, somebody literally overtook as I was driving towards them on a bend. It was just ridiculous. It was in the night, and it was one of those split-second moments where you just think, oh God, if that car had not swerved in quickly, it would have been a head-on crash. And that sort of thing is when, during your rapid eye movement phase, when you're dreaming and when you're consolidating those memories from the day before, that's when that rapid eye movement section of your sleep is so important. I'll go into the types of sleep in a moment. But just going back to melatonin, if you can make sure that you get your early morning daylight exposure, it will help you then have the right amount of melatonin before you go to bed. If you're melatonin deficient, and occasionally some people have the circadian dysregulation, which means that when their body clock is completely off, they just feel like they cannot sleep before 3 a.m. And then they go to bed at 3 a.m. and then it's just erratic and they can't sleep, and it's just, sleep for them is an absolute horror. That might be when you would consider melatonin supplementation under the guidance of a sleep doctor, because and in very small levels as well, because it can just help to the body to reset its circadian rhythm so that at a time that's more appropriate for you, you're actually starting to build up the melatonin that you feel naturally sleepy, ready to go to bed. So melatonin supplements in and of themselves are not really necessary unless you have that that circadian deficiency or dysregulation, or if you really suffer with jet lag. And again, melatonin can help you feel tireder earlier the next day if you've changed time zones by 8-9 hours, and it helps you get onto a healthy, even keel. But otherwise, you probably don't need to be taking melatonin supplement. I know so many people that do, and they don't need it, and it's making them groggy in the morning. It also, your body's thinking, well, you're giving me melatonin, so why would I even bother producing my own? So do be really mindful if you're thinking of, oh, I'll just take a melatonin supplement. It might not be the best thing for you. So what is our sleep architecture? Our sleep happens in cycles, normally between sort of 70 minutes to 110, 115 minutes is one cycle. And I think the most common cycle is around about 90 minutes, but we're all slightly different. Those clocks that say, oh, well, put the timer on and we'll beep in 90 minutes and you'll wake up at the perfect time, it's a load of rubbish, because that might not be the perfect time for you. It's just based upon an average. So we all differ slightly, and we all probably differ at different times of our lives and in different seasons as well. But normally what will happen is when you're starting to fall asleep, that's that sort of grey zone when you think you're actually not asleep, but you actually are going into light sleep. And then you're not in there for long, sort of maybe 10-15 minutes. Then you'll move into stage 2, non-REM sleep. So stage 1 is non-REM, stage 2 is non-REM. You might be there for a few minutes. Then you'll go into your stage 3 deep sleep, non-REM sleep. That's your restorative sleep. That's when your body's repairing, balancing hormones, doing the big work for you to wake up and feel, have a healthy immune system and have things repaired. If you go to bed with, say, a torn muscle the night before, and it's not going to heal overnight straight away, but it's that sort of repair work that happens during that deep sleep. And then you'll have a smallish period of REM sleep, which is that rapid eye movement sleep, which is when a lot of your dreams occur. And at the beginning of your sleep, the sleep schedule at the beginning of the night, you'll spend more of it in your deep restorative sleep mode. And as you get closer to waking up in the morning, you'll spend less time in the deep restorative sleep and more time in that REM state. REM sleep is consolidating memories, emotional processing, and also brain repair. And often you hear of people say, and I say this too, quality over quantity, but it's all important. So you want quality sleep. Of course you want good quality sleep. You want quantity. So you need to make sure you're getting enough for you. Regularity. So make sure that you're getting good enough sleep regularly, and make sure your timing is pretty tight too. So rather than going to bed, say at, I don't know, 9 o'clock one night and then 1 a.m. the next night, and maybe 10 the next night, and then 12:30 the night after that, that is really disruptive for your sleep patterns. If you can get to bed within sort of 15-30 minutes of a normal time, so anywhere between, say, 8:45 up through till sort of 10:15, if obviously pair that with what your chronotype is, but plus or minus of 45 minutes, that will really be beneficial for you, particularly if you're struggling with sleep. If you don't have much of a sleep issue, then you can be a bit more relaxed about these things. But if you really are struggling with your sleep, then try all these things out. Be disciplined. I know I had years and years and years of such poor sleep, and it wasn't until I got really bossy with myself that my sleep suddenly improved. And now, and also because I understand the sleep cycles, in the early days, I probably, I'd wake up at 4:30 and think, oh, it's near enough. I'll just get up because I am an early bird. I'll get my workout done and I'll crack on with the day. Now I will, in fact, I did it the other morning. I woke up 4:45. It was vile outside. I had actually gotten to sleep about half an hour later than I would normally do, and I felt tired still. So I got up, I made myself a raw organic cacao, there's no sugar in it, and I watched the news for half an hour. And then I thought, oh, I feel dopey. I went back to sleep and I slept for about 45 minutes. And when I woke up then, I really felt like I'd slept properly. I felt like I'd fully rested. I'm, like I say, sleeping quite well, and I'm quite relaxed around my sleep right now. But if you're a little bit like me and you just want to improve your sleep, sometimes just moving around, changing your state. Your sleep experts will say, don't watch television in your bedroom. Do not consume food or drink in your bedroom. Your bedroom is for sleep and sex only. And again, if you're struggling with sleep really badly, I agree, 100%. But I think there's a bit of a grey zone too. I didn't want to get out of bed in a freezing cold house and sit and watch the news for half an hour, supping my hot cocoa outside of my bed. I wanted to be in my bed where I felt really comfortable and I was able to go back to sleep. So make sure whatever you're doing suits you the best. But if you struggle a lot, be so disciplined. And if you're still tossing and turning after half an hour, a lot of people do suggest getting up out of bed, changing your state for a while, and then when you start to feel, dopey again, then get back into bed and, hopefully get back off to sleep. There's a lot of studies that say, you can sort of survive on 6 hours a night. And when you look at the data, around 6 hours a night is for the body to survive, not to thrive. To thrive, you're looking at about 7 hours to 9 hours. And just on the regularity, there was a study done on around about 60,000 individuals, and it was found that regular sleepers had a 49% overall reduction in mortality rate than people with sleep issues. They had a 39% lower cancer risk and 57% lower cardio disease risk. So, making sure that you're getting quality and quantity and keeping it regular and pretty much get your timing down pat has significant health benefits for you. Through the menopause, sleep is more erratic. So anything that you can do to understand the importance of sleep, you probably understand that anyway, because you feel vile when you don't sleep well. We can go without food for weeks. We can go without water for several days. We can go without air for not too long, but we also can't go without sleep for too long either. It will send you mad. That's why sleep deprivation is a form of torture. Sleep is incredibly important. And people always say, well, Margaret Thatcher managed on 4 hours of sleep a night and she died of dementia. It is shown that if you're struggling with your sleep, the risks of developing those plaques is a lot greater than if you get a good night's sleep, because that is when the brain flushes through those glial cells and repairs itself. So what can you do? They're pretty simple. Get disciplined, get bossy with yourself. So try to eat not too late before going to bed, ideally 2 hours, no more food, and then go to bed. Make sure your room is pretty cool. You want it around 18 degrees C for a normal house. And for me, that would be too warm. I think that's about 65 to 67 degrees Fahrenheit. My room goes down to 13.5 at night. I have a warm quilt, but I just like having that cool air. And as soon as the weather warms up slightly, my window is open, whether it's a really cold night or not. At the moment, it's just so damp. I don't want that damp air coming in. But do keep your room cool. It will help you sleep better. If you feel chilly in bed, wearing a pair of bed socks makes a massive difference. So if you want the cool room, but you want to feel a little bit warmer in bed, pop some bed socks on. It's incredible what a difference they make. A weighted blanket can also make a real difference. It gives you a sense of calm and cuddle and just support. And on that note, also grounding blankets. They connect to the Earth's electrical field. There are not many studies that are categorically saying they work incredibly, but anecdotal evidence really suggests that they work very well. Obviously, a good quality mattress and pillow are going to make a big difference, particularly if you're struggling with sore joints through menopause. We often struggle with these vile old mattresses, and I know mattresses and good quality pillows cost a fortune too. I broke my neck years ago, and I make sure, as hard up as I might be, I will buy the best quality mattress and best quality pillow that I can possibly afford. Because when you think about the amount of time that you're spending in bed, if you're not aligned properly, if you're not comfortable enough, that has a huge impact on how you experience your day-to-day life. So most of us have mattresses that are way older than they should be. If you have some spare pennies, consider upgrading your mattress and pillow, or even just getting a really good quality mattress topper, because they can make a considerable difference to the comfort of your bed and how warm and supported you feel. And they cost a fraction of the price of a new mattress. So do consider that. I know it's a lot of us think, oh God, I'm uncomfortable, my joints ache and my neck hurts, my shoulders, I've got a frozen shoulder, etc. And it might well be that you just need a better mattress and a better pillow setup. Obviously, nutrition is going to play an important part. If you're drinking a lot of caffeine, if caffeine affects you, it might not. It doesn't affect me often. I tend not to drink latterly in the day or the evening, but if I go out for dinner, I often have a coffee after my dinner. And if we're out at the pub and I don't want to drink wine, which is rare, but if I don't, I'll have a coffee, and that doesn't affect my sleep at all. So some of us can, some of us can't. Work out what works better for you or not. Tea may have a bad effect with you as well. Raw organic cacao might have too much caffeine in it for you. For me, again, it does not bother me. But be careful of what you're eating. If you're eating a lot of sugar, drinking a lot of alcohol, obviously caffeine, if you're caffeine sensitive, those are going to have a negative impact on how you sleep because you're just buggering up your system with them. You want to try and eat an anti-inflammatory, gut healthy, nutritious array of foods and drinks. When you can look after your gut health, it will have a profound impact on how your hormones are balanced, which will also have a profound impact on how well you sleep. But it also means that you've got the nutrition in your body, so you're not causing stress in your body because you're not feeding it with what it needs. Drink plenty of water. Again, as humans, we need plenty of water. So many people just drink coffee and tea, and they might have a protein shake and they think, oh, that's brilliant. I have extra 23 grams of protein. I've done so well, but they don't drink enough water. Water is absolutely key to your body functioning well. Pre-sleep hygiene includes no computers or laptops or blue screens that emit blue lights. And so much so that I always used to read my Kindle at night. And sometimes I've got a Kindle app on my phone. And I stopped doing that because I really wanted to get my sleep absolutely ninja. What I do is I listen to an Audible book. So I just put it on for 30 minutes and fall asleep. And if I wake up during the night, and if I'm tossing and turning and can't go back to sleep after about 20 minutes, I will put the audio book on again for another 30 minutes. And it's rare that I actually listen to that 30-minute period. If I've listened to a second 30-minute period and I'm still not going to sleep, I will then get up and I'll move around, probably make a drink of hot organic cacao, might watch the news for half an hour or 20 minutes and then turn the lights off and try and go back to sleep again. And normally that works. It's funny especially when we're in that stage 1 light sleep, you might think, oh, I've been tossing and turning for hours. But actually, you're in that very light sleep mode. So your body is actually starting to go to sleep, but you might just come out of it again, but then you go back into it again, and then you might come out of it again. And eventually you manage to get into that stage 2 sleep, and possibly, even if you're really lucky, into the stage 3 and 4 sleep or the REM sleep. But we often think we've slept less than we actually have done. And that can cause stress in and of itself too. If you're going to bed thinking, oh, I'm going to sleep so badly again tonight. I've had that problem myself. I know what it's like. You have to try and reframe it, and whatever works best for you. I think if you know that you're doing the things that you're supposed to be doing, you are being disciplined, and you're struggling with sleep. If you're still having problems, go and talk to your doctor about it, because it might be that you need a little bit of extra intervention. You might need maybe a few sleeping pills. I don't advocate sleeping pills at all unless it's an extreme circumstance, but it might be that it can get you into a healthy habit of sleeping while you get your sleep hygiene down pat, and then come off the sleep pills, because you don't want to be on them for a long period of time. But there are other things that you can do. So avoid the screens, avoid the computers, because they will mess up with your sleep. Aim to lower the light levels in your house. So you can probably see a very sort of not very bright light in the background there. And I have another one in another corner. Those are the lights that I have on before I go to bed. This is my living room. And before bedtime, that is the maximum light that's on in this room. And you wouldn't want to do your vacuuming at that time of night because you wouldn't see anything on the floor. But as that wind down time after dinner and you're just relaxing before you go to bed, that's the level of light that you want, under 30 lux, ideally, and making sure that you are dimming those lights or just not having as many lights on. So your body's naturally thinking, oh, yeah, in cave times, didn't have lights. Might have had a few candles on or torches on, but you would not have lights. And the body, we can confuse the brain if we're surrounded by loads of bright lights. It still thinks, oh, I'm still in the middle of the day when it's like 11 p.m. at night. So allow your body to do what it would naturally do. You just go into cave woman mode. If you can think of like a cave woman, she's cooked her dinner at 5 p.m. or 6 p.m. I mean, 5 p.m. is way early for me, but she's cooked her dinner and the light's declining and she's getting ready, getting cooler because the sun's going down. Her melatonin's naturally rising, and whether she's the early bird, so she's going to bed first, ready for her night owls to come out, so later on through the session. But if you can really, I know it's a bit ridiculous to say think like a cave woman, but if you can, you'll do yourself so many favors, because when she wakes up in the morning, she'll be out and about. She won't be sat in her cave watching television or scrolling on social media. She'll be out doing things with purpose, out in the ultraviolet light, not necessarily the sunlight, but ultraviolet. And all of a sudden, her body's working like it should work. Also, as far as sleep hygiene goes, the sleep experts say, and I agree with it to a degree, that if you're really struggling with your sleep, you should go to bed and get up at the same time every single day to create the pattern. So your brain learns that pattern of, it's 9 p.m. I need to get ready for bed now because I need to be in bed by 9:30. And, it's 6 a.m. My alarm has gone off and I need to get up. But I think through midlife and menopause, our hormones are all over the shop. We are not just these robots that go to bed at a certain time and wake up at a certain time, unless you're at the very extreme end and you are already under the care of a sleep doctor, in which case listen to them, because they'll have the absolute nuances nailed for you specifically. You've probably been rigged up with brain monitors and all sorts. But if you're just like a normal woman wanting to sleep better and you're feeling under the weather, you might be fighting a virus, you've had poor sleep for several nights on the trot, and 7:30 and you're thinking, God, I just want to go to bed. Go to bed. Because it might be that you just need a really good night in bed asleep. And even if you wake up a few times, the fact that you're in bed for longer will allow your body, if your body's telling you, I'm exhausted, we need to go and lie down, listen to what your body's telling you and avoid the frameworks that can be quite dogmatic. Strength training is a massive one. It gobbles up stress hormones. It promotes endorphins, feel-good hormones. When you have increased muscle mass, it's going to help to regulate your blood sugar levels. If you've got better regulated blood sugar levels, you're going to sleep better at night. Your body's going to run more efficiently. A lot of the early hour waking up, 2 a.m., 3 a.m., can be an overactive liver. Again, that ties back to your nutrition, caffeine, alcohol, toxins in your environment. But strength training helps to abate all of that. So if you're not doing it already, please start, because also for your bone mass, your muscle mass, your wellness in all, and your gut health as well, strength training is an absolutely key component of you improving your sleep through midlife and beyond. Finally, on to supplements. Vitamin D3, K2. You probably heard me mention it time and time again. Vitamin D3 is something that the vast majority of us, particularly if we live in the Northern Hemisphere, are deficient in. We get D3, we get D2 from food sources, mushrooms, etc. D3 is from the ultraviolet. Vitamin D3 is probably one of the most important hormones for your mental and physical wellness. And there are various suggestions as to what you should take as a daily average. Often it's the amount suggested is under what ideally you want to take to thrive. So they're giving you the survive levels rather than the thrive levels. People will say take between 10,000 and 20,000 IU. I've just moved mine up from 8 to 12,000 IU. It's very hard to have vitamin D3 toxicity. And as we get older, our ability to synthesize the vitamin D3 that we're getting becomes less efficient too. The reason for the K2 is because vitamin D3 is often associated, you might be taking a calcium supplement if you've got osteoporosis or osteopenia. Only take calcium supplements if you've been advised to take them. Otherwise, you probably don't need them unless somebody said you've got osteoporosis, this is what you need to do in order to help abate that osteoporosis or osteopenia. K2 directs the calcium from our food, from getting access to vitamin D3, the ultraviolet light, into our bones and our teeth, not our soft tissue like our lungs and our arteries. So combine your D3 with K2. It's a really good vitamin to take. Magnesium, found in leafy greens, nuts, seeds, legumes, dark chocolate. Magnesium is one of those, again, some sleep experts will say it doesn't really impact your sleep. However, anecdotal evidence from menopausal women says actually it makes a massive difference. It probably will not impact your sleep directly. Magnesium is a little bit like progesterone in so far as it helps to make us feel less stressed. It helps the body to relax. So glycinate or L-threonate are the two types of magnesium you want to consider if sleep is an issue for you, and take them before going to bed. Vitamins B6 and zinc, these are cofactors actually for D3 and magnesium. So they will help the body absorb D3 and magnesium more effectively if you take B6 and zinc. But B6 and zinc in and of themselves are beneficial for helping you sleep through the menopause. If you're having fatigue, low mood, taking a while to heal, wounds, it might be that you're a little bit low in zinc. Vitamin Bs are the B complex, so all of the vitamin Bs are particularly helpful for helping the nervous system. So it might be, instead of just B6, you want to take a B complex, which has got all of them, and that might help you sleep more effectively too, because you're reducing that, well, you're building in your resilience to stress, you're reducing that nervous, antsy feeling. Adaptogen herbs are something that I bang on about all the time. I think they're brilliant. They're so powerful. Ashwagandha in particular is a calming adaptogen herb, and that's something that you might want to consider taking towards the end of the day to help you sleep better at night. And in summary, really with supplements, often we don't need as many supplements as people say. I would consider ashwagandha if you're struggling with sleep. I would also consider something like a chamomile tea or a lemon balm tea. Lemon balm is really good at reducing anxiety. Chamomile helps to promote that sense of sleepiness, and vitamin D3 and K2. Magnesium, if you are really struggling to stay asleep and to get off to sleep, it's worth trying it just to see if it makes a difference to you. And if it does, continue, and if it doesn't, then obviously discontinue it. So all in all, there are quite a few things that we can do to improve our sleep if we get bossy with ourselves. If you have done everything that I've suggested today and you're still really struggling, I would go and see your doctor and see if you can get a referral to a sleep doctor, a specialist sleep doctor, because it could be that you just have that circadian dysfunction and you need to follow a really strict routine to get you on, to train your brain, to train your circadian rhythm, to know when is the time to go to bed and the time to wake up. And that's when maybe the melatonin supplement might be added, as well as other things that they could suggest to you. Otherwise, if you're like the vast majority of us and you're just really struggling, the other thing I would say is, as hard as it is to avoid getting cross when you have a bad night's sleep, because it can be really frustrating that, oh God, I've woken up again. I can't go back to sleep. But that is then just adding to the cortisol levels around your body. You're becoming stressed because you're stressed about it. And that's only going to have more of a negative impact. One or a couple of things that you could potentially consider doing are just gentle breathing. Box breathing possibly. So you breathe and keep it really easy at night. You don't want to be doing anything like too strenuous. So maybe breathing in for 4, maybe just breathing out for 4, breathing in for 4 and breathing out for 4. And just, just thinking just in and out, in and out. And that might be sufficient for you to just drift off because it stops the busy brain. If you want something a bit more, if you're wide awake, you think, oh, do box breathing. So in for 4, hold it for 4, out for 4, and then hold it out for 4. So it is like a box. And keep repeating that until you go to sleep. The other thing you might want to do is a guided meditation. There's loads of apps that you can download or listen to. What I do, like I mentioned earlier, is I listen to an audio book, and it can be anything. I've just finished listening to Nobody's Girl by Virginia Giuffre. I'm listening to The Way of the Wild Women or something by Michaela Bloom. I can never remember. And then I listened to a book about trees not long ago, and then I listened to ghost stories. So you have to work out what suits you, but find something that you find interesting enough and put it on for half an hour. And often, just because you're listening to something quietly, it's often enough just to sort of, again, it distracts your brain from the busy thinking that you get dragged into when you wake up and you just can't go back to sleep again. And if all else fails, get up, move around a bit, change the space, go into another room, maybe make yourself a mug of something nice and warm that you enjoy, and sit and do something else. Maybe read a book. Perhaps the stimulation of watching a television screen would not be beneficial for you. It doesn't bother me, but yeah, I think, again, we have to all work out what is best for us individually. Consider adaptogens, focus on your gut health, get moving if you're not doing so already. And I'd be really interested to know what are your biggest sleep challenges right now? And what have you found that's worked especially well for you? Particularly with this run up to Christmas at the moment, it's a very busy time and lots of parties, and those can really throw us off. It's even been proven that you can bank your sleep. So if you know you've got a few big nights ahead of you, get to bed a little bit earlier for the nights prior to that. And that does actually, it's been proven to have a positive impact. So although you're still going to feel tired at the end of your several days of partying or whatever it might be, but the impact physiologically on you will not be as great as if you didn't bank your sleep before those busy nights ahead. So thank you so much for your company. I hope it's been helpful. And if you've got any comments or questions, leave them in the box below, and I will look forward to catching you again next week.